I am the terror that flaps in the night. I am the winged scourge that pecks at your nightmares. I am...
Sam, how's it going, guys?
Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy hit the Haylloween!
Yeah, we're getting all spookalicious up in here.
We're having a good old spooky time.
Yep.
Spookabrating.
Yep.
Spooky time,
Yeah.
spooky boys time.
Spooky lads.
Boys.
On the spookiest day of the year. You're not going to be listening to this on the spookiest day of the year unless you're listening in 2021 or later.
In which case,
Oh, wow, that's very optimistic, Emmett.
in which case, happy Halloween.
If the world is still existing in a year from now, you'll have an idea of what it was like today.
This is like a this is like, okay, you're walking around the wasteland, and this is one of the weird little discs you find and put into your wrist disc player, and you're like, wow, that's like the remnants of a previous society. This somehow foreshadows its inevitable destruction.
Thanks, devs, for this useless lore.
Hey, it's fun.
If you are,
It is fun. It's cool.
if you are a super evolved sentient squirrel that has found this external hard drive in the ruins of
Civilization.
Post-human Vancouver.
Then comment, and subscribe.
Absolutely.
And thank you for listening, Sandy Cheeks.
Also, I
That
hope
was racist, Emmett.
I hope I get this pronunciation correct.
I don't think that's what squirrels sound like.
That's everybody knows that's what squirrels sound like.
I'm not so sure.
I don't know how to respond.
All right.
Everybody
What did you
knows
just
it.
say about my mother?
You'll
In
never
school.
know. Only the squirrel knows.
Only the squirrel, yeah.
and it knows I'm right.
Yeah. Well, it knows that the squirrel is... That's the only thing the squirrel has understood thus far in
Yeah.
the podcast.
I mean, how do you know that they haven't learned English? How?
That's true.
Yeah, Emmett, can you just drop your squirrel racism?
All right.
It's becoming a problem with this podcast.
Are we gonna have to cancel you again?
Oh, God. All right. Well, it's Halloween. We're having a good time.
You can't tell,
Having
but
a good time.
66.6 repeating % of us are wearing our costumes right now.
Well, I've still got elements of it on.
It's not enough.
Sam's got... Sam tonight... Actually, you tell us what your costume is.
Well, you may have guessed from my intro.
I'm going as Darkwing Duck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows Darkwing Duck.
Listen, it was pretty popular in the 90s, and it's getting to come back with the new DuckTales, you know?
Yeah. I thought it was a great costume, though.
Oh, thank you.
Sam made most of it himself. It's
Well, I purchased it.
Well, but you put it together.
I cobbled it together.
You found the disparate elements and assembled them yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I got orange socks from Party
local
City.
From your local orange sock store.
Yeah.
From the orange sock dealer that lives on our street.
Yeah, I got
sort of stands on the corner
I
every
got
Friday
the coat
night.
and hat from Spirit Halloween, and I had to spray the hat. Well, Dad sprayed the hat with purple hair dye to make it purple because it was black.
Finding a purple hat is hard.
And I got these white sweatpants from Old Navy.
Because Darkwing Duck doesn't wear pants and it just has, the duck bottom. So
Yeah.
Right.
Sam got some white cream-colored type...
And I can use these as
Sweatpants.
pajamas from now on because they're very comfortable.
yeah, and then a black t-shirt underneath
Yeah.
of all of it, and a purple mask.
Yeah, and I got the purple mask and the cape, which I attached to my purple coat
Nice.
from Party City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's his costume.
Yeah.
I sort of went
The
as
coat
a...
was really expensive.
Oh, rip, dude.
Yeah.
I sort of also put together a bunch of disparate elements to just sort of make my own sort of bizarre costume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sort of am like a punk plague doctor type of a thing.
Yeah.
I'm not wearing the plague doctor mask at the moment because you wouldn't be able to hear me, and also it's kind of hard to breathe in. But it's probably the most COVID safe out of any of these.
It's a good look.
Well, and
Thank
it
you.
reminds people of the imminent plague that is currently,
yeah, exactly. I'm just somebody who's this is the Halloween costume. This is just me normally in 2020.
Yeah.
But I got
Yeah.
this cool punk hat
Em's
from
ready for the apocalypse.
Yeah, I got this cool punk hat from Spirit Halloween.
Yep.
I just put on some dress shoes and I'm not wearing them now. I saw Connor look at my feet and they're just socks.
Yeah. Same.
But I also got this really cool long coat from Value Village. Pretty cheap. I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
and
There's
some other
nothing
stuff in my
that fits
closet.
old Sammy Boy at Value Village.
Yeah. And a Plague Doctor mask I ordered like 6 months ago when the pandemic began, just because I was like, that's a good meme.
Nice. And ended up, being a better meme than you expected.
Well,
To the
I
point
got
where
it during, like, right after the pandemic started. So
Right.
the pandemic was already happening.
Yeah.
But, yes.
And then I am an entry-level worker. I've got my Cineplex hat on. I've got my McDonald's shirt with my Cineplex name tag. And then I've got the same black dress pants that I wore for both jobs.
Both jobs.
And,
yeah.
and the little ask for butter pin on the hat.
Yeah, it goes...
Because I did ask for butter earlier.
Yeah,
Nine.
it was this really hilarious scenario
That you
where
missed.
Sam asked Connor for butter, and Connor directed him to the fridge, not understanding that Sam was talking about his hat. And I didn't understand either. I was like, dude, you don't need butter right now. But then Sam...
When do I not need butter?
at that point, Sam proceeded to point at Connor's hat, and it was hilarious.
I just
Yes.
love the fact that neither Emmett or I took a moment to ask Sam why he needed the butter.
We had some beautiful focaccia bread, but it didn't need butter.
And the beautiful focaccia bread made by me and Emmett's beautiful mother to resemble Edvard Munch's The Scream
Yeah, it's really
with
Halloween.
vegetables.
Spooky stuff.
If you looked at it at this very second, you might not be able to
Yeah,
tell.
it's only got the sky left. We ate the rest.
Yeah.
We were hungry.
So, yeah, that's our jam tonight.
Yeah, that's
We're
Shout
gonna
out
be.
to our mom if she's still listening and making sure we're not cursing.
She hasn't listened to the past few episodes because I haven't shared them on Facebook.
Cool.
I mean, most of our episodes have been relatively clean,
Relatively.
Now,
swearing wise at least.
Yeah.
let me take this
we're being
moment
well
to
behaved.
discuss my favorite body parts. Ears.
Okay.
Yeah.
Explain. I don't disagree with you,
It was
but
a bait and switch.
Yeah, he was trying to be like, I'm
Oh.
gonna say something
Obscene. But then I
risque,
didn't.
right.
but then he just said ears.
I was excited because I thought you were gonna just go into a whole tirade of why ears are actually really underrated.
Sam, please do that.
I'm gonna be honest. I actually hate ears
Shoot.
Oh,
because mine
this
are
really
the
was a
worst.
bait and switch. You don't. I don't know. I've never really.
No, not my physical, like, fleshy ears. I mean, my inner ears are super messed up, and I have severe balance issues.
Oh,
Ah,
right.
Gotcha.
Right. I was like, your ears look like normal ears to me.
Yeah. No, actually,
Fool that I am.
people bug me in school for my ears sticking out, so thanks for that, Em.
I was saying something nice. I said your ears look normal.
I used to be very insecure about the size of my ears.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Well, that's part of the reason I think I grew my hair out super long was,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I was kind of like you know how like dogs and cats when they're really young, like their ears are just already
Yeah.
abnormally large.
Yeah.
I feel like I had that going, and then I just kind of had to grow into my
Yeah.
ears.
There you go.
I do feel like that's just most kids.
Yeah,
Well, and also, here's the other thing about ears, though. The ears and noses is the only body part that, like, keeps growing throughout your entire life. Because it's like
Are your
cartilage
fingernails.
or whatever. Well, yes, also your fingernails. I bet you absolutely... Anyway. But no, yeah, ears and nose keep growing throughout your entire life.
they just never stop.
Never stop, never stop.
How come I've seen old people with small noses then? Checkmate, liberal.
They presumably started with very small noses.
Your move,
Checkmate.
science.
Take that. Owned with facts and logic.
I destroyed the Halloween costume that Emmett spent decades working on with facts and logic.
Yeah, he did.
Oh,
he really
no.
did.
So
Okay.
y'all had some stuff y'all had ideas because I didn't.
Well, so here's my pitch.
I'll go for it.
Well, not my pitch, my asking for your pitches.
Yes.
Is pitch me a horror movie.
Oh,
Ooh,
that's
okay.
fun. That's fun.
I like that.
Any stipulations? Any sort of like curveballs you're gonna throw us?
It has to star Bryan Cranston.
Ooh. Oh, easy. Not the Scottish play Hamlet, but it's a horror movie with Bryan Cranston.
So is Hamlet the scary one?
No, everything else is.
Okay.
Yes, please elaborate.
So, I'm trying to elaborate to myself how this would work. Bryan Cranston plays Polonius.
Okay.
because he's
That's a choice.
So it's Hamlet, but from Polonius's perspective.
maybe.
Because he gets murdered.
Yeah.
Halfway through.
Everybody just like memes on this guy, and then he dies.
That is
Yeah.
exactly what happens.
Maybe Polonius watches the rest of the play
As it goes.
like as it goes.
Ghosts are canon
So
to the
he just-
Hamlet universe.
There is precedent.
I was in my brain. I got Polonius and Claudius mixed up.
Right.
But now that I've said Polonius, I need to commit to it.
Yeah, you do.
Well, and also, it could be like a psychological thing of like
That's what I'm-
Polonius, you know, he thinks he's got Hamlet figured out, but then he's like, he's just not sure if Hamlet's, you know, actually like going off the deep end and
Yeah.
gonna murder
This
people.
it would have to be a very like
it's actually
weirdly.
kind of a cool concept.
I think there's something to that.
I think we might have struck gold here on the podcast. See us
I'm
in
sure the
2025 with
squirrels-
our Polonius movie.
I'm sure the squirrels will really, you know, enjoy putting that on as like a small theater production.
Let
Yeah.
it be known that the absolutely timeless masterpiece of horror movie Hamlet was indeed conceived
Yeah.
here on this podcast.
Horror movie Hamlet from Polonius's perspective.
Yeah, the widely celebrated squirrel horror movie
Yeah. This is
originated
where- yeah.
here.
And we will be claiming copyright on anybody else who makes this movie.
From the grave.
This is our intellectual property because I said it is.
Yeah.
That's how
That's
copyright law
that
works.
is how it works, yes.
I'm
Unless they say no copyright infringement Nintendo.
Then we're hooped.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we got to count on them not.
we
saying
gotta check
it.
the credits.
Yeah. Thankfully, they didn't learn that little bit of information from this podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, Emmett.
A horror movie starring Bryan Cranston. I feel like part of me was like tempted to say like, oh, Malcolm in the Middle, but it's a horror movie, and then I just realized no, that's not.
No, that isn't very good. I mean,
No,
try
that's
to
not
do
very
better.
good. But I was thinking, I'd like to see Bryan Cranston maybe, I don't know, in a swamp, doing some spooky stuff. He could be an old swamp geezer.
Okay.
And he's this old swamp geezer, and
Is that what the movie's called?
yeah, Swamp Geezer. That's the name of this movie. And all of a sudden, all of these kids come out, and it's sort of like a cabin in the woods situation, but it's a swamp. But he's just living in the cabin, and all of these kids are there, sort of like, oh my goodness, there's this crazy old guy who lives in this cabin that we didn't rent.
It's like Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Shush. It's definitely not an homage to Evil Dead. It's an homage to
Evil Dead 2.
Very good.
Where they sort of think that Bryan Cranston is this crazy murderer, and then Bryan Cranston sort of goes through the phase of thinking they might be crazy murderers, but it turns out the crazy murderer was swamp gas this entire time.
Good lord.
That's my movie. I came up
Wow,
with.
quality content. Evan.
Yeah. What about you, Sam?
Okay, so like, I kind of wanted to do like a reverse horror movie where somehow
Where
like,
it's just a comedy, like a feel good. Like,
no, not at all. Kind of, but no.
Heartwarming.
Where it's like there's a bunch of like clear pastiches of like famous serial killers, like oh, I'm Jorson Von Hees,
Nice.
and I like wearing catcher's masks and wielding butcher knives.
I'm Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
I like Lowe's.
I'm Chad Kroger.
Chad, Freddy.
Chatty Kroger.
But anyway, so all these like horror thinly veiled pastiches, or any that we can like actually get the rights to, are all like in this one town together, and they're like, oh, we're stepping on each other's toes, we're all killing people together. And Bryan Cranston is just kind of a run of the mill just murderer who's out there murdering people, and he's like, yeah, I'm Bryan Cranston and I murder people.
That's what he do.
That's just how we do.
Yeah, but then there's like this. But then it's like they all find themselves being hunted down by some force, and I actually halfway through this realized that this is an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh wow.
Is it?
Yeah, because they're just like a group of like fairly ordinary teens are like hunting and killing these monsters in very elaborate ways.
But the monsters are just sort of trying to have their day off.
No, they're murdering people.
They're murdering people, but it's like, when
but
they
then
have their day
from
off.
their perspective
Yeah.
of their being hunted.
Oh,
Yeah.
so there's sort
So
of
it's
like
shot
a
like a horror movie from their perspective.
like at the it's sort of like the there's always a bigger fish sort of
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, there's our 3 horror movies of equal quality.
There, I actually wanted to ask, do this sort of like an IMDb game where
Okay.
you can ask like some further details.
Yes, please do.
So
Who plays Bryan Cranston?
Brian
Dwayne
Cranston.
The Rock Johnson. plays
as Brian,
I was gonna
It's
say.
it's like the new Jumanji movies.
I was gonna say Dwight. Rainn Wilson would be playing
I like that.
Brian Cranston.
Wait, what was your idea again?
was
Swamp
Swamp
Geezer.
Geezer.
Yeah.
Right.
Swamp
Who
Geezer.
who plays the popular kid in the young adult group?
I want to say the popular kid. It's Winona Ryder.
Oh,
She's sort of reprising her role as the classic goth kid, but it's still Winona Ryder as old as she is today.
right.
So she's just playing a teenager alongside Bryan Cranston, who is playing a swamp geezer.
The mom from Stranger Things is going through some stuff.
Yeah, sort of the reprising her role as the character from Beetlejuice. That sort of
Nice.
style of character, not the same character.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good.
Oh, I want to say that the one who's hunting down the monsters, I've just decided, is played by Finn Wolfhard.
Nice.
Oh, good.
My question was what monster gets what monster is the easiest to hunt? Which one gets picked off first?
Well, Bryan Cranston makes it to the end because he's more intelligent, he's more cunning.
He's a
You know,
brilliant actor.
But exactly,
Mhm.
and we paid to have him in this film,
Mhm.
But the Jorson Von Hees, he goes down really easily.
Wow. Well,
Real-
Jason's pretty unkillable, so that's a bit of a
yeah,
surprise.
but they just but because of that, they do concoct a bit of an elaborate scenario where they funnel him into this one area, and then they manage to boom his head off, and then they burn him.
Get a quick voom
Wow.
in there.
Just a quick little boom for Jason Boy.
Yeah, that's a copyrighted character. This is
Jorson.
Jorson
Von
Von Hees.
Von
Jorgensen. Jorgensen Morningstar.
Yeah, that's him.
That's the one.
It's a game of telephone until the name is just completely disconnected from Jason.
Exactly.
Jim Jam Von.
Jimmy Jam.
Hmm. Yeah.
Just like 5 N's in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And my question about the Hamlet movie is when Polonius dies,
Yes.
is that the climax or? Oh no, we established the precedent of there being ghosts. So he watches the rest of the. How is Polonius feeling as he's watching the rest of this as a ghost? Is he vindictive and good, glad
think
that
it's
you're
a-
all dying?
Well, presumably he's sad about Ophelia.
Well, yeah.
There is that piece, but I think it's more like his character progression is just realizing how insignificant to
He was to-
everyone else he was.
Yeah.
And it's really more of an internal horror of oh gosh, my character didn't have much function.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of a Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead.
Yeah.
Except Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are more interesting.
Yeah.
Well, also, who does Dwayne The Rock Johnson play in your film?
Oh, Hamlet.
Oh, of course.
Who did? Nice.
Absolute Chad Hamlet.
What can I say except you're welcome?
To be or not to be. Dwayne The Rock Johnson giving the to be or not to be speech.
I'm intrigued.
I
wanna
would
see
watch that.
I just want to see that,
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any clip of on the internet. I don't think that would exist, but if it did,
Plus there's the scene.
most actors do at least learn it at some point.
There's the scene where Hamlet is kind of given his mom heck
Yeah.
for having married Claudius.
For honeying and making love over the nasty stock.
Exactly.
His uncle, father, and aunt, mother.
And so to have Dwayne the Dwok Ronson
Yeah. Sean Lowain DeWanson.
Jane the Rock Onston.
Jane Austen.
Rock the Rock.
Stone the Rock Pebbles.
A knock at the door.
No,
At
it's
this time of
fireworks.
It's gunshots.
Anyway, to have Dwayne the Rock Johnson just absolutely raging at this mother would be quite a sight to
raging
behold.
against the dying of the light
And the machine.
and the machine
Yeah.
simultaneously.
Yep. All right.
Wow.
That was a good bit.
Yeah, amazing.
Well
That was
done,
a-
guys.
Yeah, good
So,
job.
so Emmett, do you have something?
Yeah, this was a another Halloween sort of themed question.
Mm.
Do you guys have any good Halloween stories? Like something that happened to you on Halloween that just makes for an interesting or funny or maybe even a little spooky story? Or heartwarming even. My story's a little heartwarming.
Walked
But
up to this house. I knocked carefully on the door. I saw a man in pale blue scrubs, and he handed me an apple.
Wow. It sounds like the last line of a really boring contemporary play.
Yeah.
yeah.
You know how they just kind of end with nothing, seemingly nothing
Yeah.
lines?
It's like something...
I'll
No,
have
I'm not going
two
to go in
root
on any
beers.
local theater companies. I'm going to leave that, but I
Yeah.
could if I wanted to.
I'm gonna put all the local theater companies on blast. First of all,
Yeah, no, we're not
Long
gonna do that.
Johnson Theater Company, get wrecked.
Yeet.
Get wrecked, flom.
That was my Halloween story.
Nice.
Well done, Sam.
I don't have. I haven't had anything spooky happen to me.
Well, not even necessarily spooky. If it's just like a
Well, no,
funny
I was gonna
Halloween
say-
story when you were a kid, or
Yeah. This hasn't happened. This didn't happen to me, and it didn't happen on Halloween. So I
Happened
don't
It
to
do
happened
it.
to a friend of a
it's-
friend of mine.
we were thinking the same thing.
It happened. Well, it happened to Cam,
Okay.
Oh.
my elder sibling,
Yes.
and so both Cam and I, those who follow the channel know that I used to work at this summer camp, and
Summer camp,
yes,
if you will.
particularly a summer Bible camp.
Bible camp.
Yes.
The spookiest shenanigans happen at Bible camp.
You know, you say that. And one of the things that often came into discussion amongst the more, I'll say, the more religious staff members and cabin leaders was this element of spiritual warfare.
Ooh.
This is a scary story already.
I
Yeah.
know. So, like, just the idea that we're working at a place where we're trying to, get some Jesus to some children.
Yeah.
And
Hey kids, you know who was in the desert for several fortnights? Jesus.
nice.
Yeah. You know it.
Oh, one that I actually found online, so I can't take credit for this one is, you know who's always among us? Jesus.
I don't like that.
You know who's never the imposter?
There you go. That's better. So anyway, the idea that we're like at this place trying to get, kids to latch onto that Jesus. And because it's a camp and kids, they're away from their parents, so they feel a little bit more free to kind of make their own decisions and for
To
their
be
life.
absolute miscreants.
Exactly. But also to
To be miscreants for Jesus.
there are the kids that like maybe their parents take them to church, but because they're always going to church because they have to, they don't really jive with it as
Yeah.
much because it's an obligation. But when you're at camp where you don't have your parents around, it's just you and a bunch of weird young adults.
Yeah.
The choice feels a little bit more like yours.
Mm-hmm.
And so the staff members would talk about this and the fact that it's a kind of place that Satan, if he exists, probably wouldn't be super stoked about.
Ah. Yes, this
Okay.
camp in somewhere in Alberta, hidden away from the Lord's eyes.
Well, no, probably more towards the Lord's eyes, I
Yes,
suppose.
more. That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. The Lord has got his eye on this place, so therefore it's prime target for Satan.
Yes.
Pretty much. So there have been stories of spooky goings on at this camp.
Like seeing a Beelzebub?
No, just like hearing things that shouldn't be things that can be heard.
It's almost.
And
Didgeridoo?
yeah, we also had one summer.
Midnight didgeridoos.
We also had one summer where we had a bit of a problem with bats.
Oh,
They were getting
that's just cool. They're beautiful creatures.
They are. They're adorable. But they were getting a little cocky,
A little frisky.
a little frisky, and so they would be like diving down into our courtyard and like whiffing right past people's heads.
Oof.
And for those of us who like bats, you know, it's
That's
not
kinda
a huge
cool.
time, but you also kind of want to protect the
Well,
kids.
you can get sick from bats, as
Exactly.
the world
Okay,
now
here's
knows.
the thing: is that on the rare occasions that one does get a rabid bats can't fly very well, just by definition.
Right.
And they're also kind of dying typically. So yes, you can get rabid bats. It's very rare for a rabid bat even to pose a danger to humans, and virtually nil for a non-rabid bat.
Man, I'm imagining a rabbit-sized bat, and it's pretty scary.
There
dude.
are rabbit-sized bats.
What
I
about-
can't stress that.
No, I know that. I know. Like
I've
fruit
seen
bats.
plenty.
But fruit bats like fruit. It's fine.
I've seen plenty of bat-sized rabbits, and that's not even a problem.
Cool.
Yeah.
Bats.
Here's a fun fact for everyone listening at home. Possums cannot get rabies, and their body actually like kills ticks that go onto it,
Nice.
like wood ticks and stuff.
Good for them.
And so possums are actually like really good to have around.
Beautifully evolved garbage boys.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
But
Anyway,
yes, Connor, continue
this
with
is
the story.
the bats aren't even the spookiest part.
They're pretty spoopy.
They are pretty spooky. So every now and then there would be these stories floating around of weird like things that would be heard or perhaps seen out of the corner of your eye at night, like while the kids are all in their cabins, and it started getting frequent enough that a bunch of the male cabin leaders, including Cam, decided to hold a stakeout in the main sort of outdoor courtyard.
They were gonna catch Satan.
They just wanted to find out if they were to like sleep in that area or not sleep, but just to like stick around there for the whole night. Like what would happen? What would they see or hear? So they did that. And apparently there were a number of times when they would just hear footsteps from, even though there should be no one around the camp at that time of night. And that was the main thing. There have also been like reports of like weird gaseous things just flying by.
Oh.
But that might have been a bat.
Could be a gaseous form, or it could be
I'm not good
a
at
flying
telling
rodent.
I'm not good at telling ghost stories because the spooky parts, my brain immediately tries to rationalize them.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I have the absolute worst ghost story.
Okay, we'll let Connor
Yeah.
finish up.
that's
this.
really the main thing was
Oh.
that
They didn't find anything on this day.
they didn't find anything tangible, but it was definitely a scary night.
Yeah. Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Whack.
But here's Sam's absolute worst ghost story. Not worst because it's scary, worst because it's super lame. So I did a lot of volunteering at Fort Langley. I also worked there a little bit. But I spent a lot of time in the blacksmith shop, both working and volunteering. And in fact, when I was volunteering, I would often stay really pretty late because I wanted to finish whatever I was working on in the blacksmith shop if I was, making a little special something for somebody. And so one night I had stayed a little late, and it wasn't that late. The employees, who would at various points in time be my coworkers, were just getting changed, and so I had stayed late before, and it was like I was like, all right, we'll leave you there. We'll get changed, and when we're finished getting changed, we'll come out and unlock the door for you, and we'll all leave together. And I was like, okay. So I finished up what I was working on, and I was like, okay, I'll just go wait by the main gate. And I was walking by, and I heard someone say, use the other gate. I was like, okay. Okay, person who I didn't see. And then I walked over to the other gate, and it was locked. And I was like, wow, that I don't know what I expected. And then I walked back, and then I looked, and I saw everyone leaving right as I was by the other gate, and they're like, "Hey, Sam, what are you doing over there?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, that was weird," and so I left. I probably just misheard one of the campers who were staying overnight at the fort.
But
It's
it
not
could
like-
have been a ghost.
Yeah, it could have been.
Pulling a ghosty prank.
Yeah, and I mean, it didn't work. And I also, even if the people had left without me, there were still a lot of people in the fort because people rented out overnight.
Absolutely.
So it wouldn't have even been that scary.
Absolutely.
I've stayed there overnight myself.
Absolutely bamboozled.
Yeah, so that's my incredibly lame ghost story,
Wow.
which probably was me mishearing somebody.
Amazing.
Emmett, bring it home.
Yeah, well, mine's actually not really a ghost story so much as just a cute story of something that happened to me when I was a kid on Halloween one year. So one year I got a costume probably from our local superstore. And
Yugi?
yeah, I was Yugi from Yu-Gi-Oh! I was
Nice.
the man himself.
Is that
The
that's
king
the
of
guy
games.
with the spiky
Yeah,
yellow
the spikiest hair out of any anime character.
yeah.
Well, other than characters who would also be in Yu-Gi-Oh! Later on in its life.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has some like absolutely buck wild hairstyles.
Yeah.
But Yugi, the main character of the OG stuff, had some pretty funky hair. But I had like this. It sort of had like a mask that had like Yugi's face and hair on it.
Yeah.
So this is just something that I thought was sort of adorable. I answered the door for some trick-or-treaters after we were all done our own trick-or-treating, and it was some older teenagers. And I sort of was like, this kid who was probably like, I was probably in like kindergarten or something.
Nice.
Grade 1 maybe. And I opened the door and was sort of looking at them, and they're like, "Oh wow, are you the real Yugi?" And I was like, "They think I'm the real Yugi." And I don't know. I tried to play along as much as I could without like having nearly the same level of acting skills as I do today.
Yeah.
Like I think I probably said something along the lines of,
prepare to duel.
"It's time to did a duel." And they just played along with it, and I don't know, just
That's
as a
very
kid,
nice.
and I gave them the candy, and they walked away, and I remember saying to Mom, they thought I was the real Yugi, and like as a kid, I remember that meant a lot to me, like these teenagers that were just like willing to like I don't know play along with this kid who didn't know what he was doing, but
They were probably just stoked that they met a kid that's like already 5 or 6 years old and was already into anime.
oh yeah, that set a dangerous precedent for the rest of my life. But yeah, no, it just meant a lot to me. So if those random
is a nice
teenagers
story.
from Spruce Grove, Alberta, are still out there listening to this podcast someday in the wastes, know that I appreciated that,
Yeah.
even though you're probably in your like
30s
today, wherever you may be.
wherever.
Oh, so Emmett, do you have a ghost story? Have you ever had a spooky experience?
I really honestly can't say that I've ever been in a situation where I think that like it would have been plausible that I was in the same space as a ghost. Or
We've looked for spooks.
we have looked for spooks, but like I don't know. Maybe it's just that I don't like go to random places that
Yeah.
are haunted, or like I've never had like haunted like experiences like in
Well-
my own home or anything like that.
Well, and I gotta say, your old pal Sam, his hobby is walking around cemeteries, and Fort Langley is apparently one of the most haunted places
Hauntedest?
in BC. Yeah, and no, aside from my one really lame ghost story, even though I have like I say, I spend my free time hanging out with my dad, just walking around gravestones and looking at the
Yeah,
names
they
and
do.
stuff.
This is true. Actually, I do have one story. I don't know if it's necessary. I don't know if this.
Well, you gotta tell it now.
It's more like I've only ever had.
Can it be any more lame than my story?
It's not lame. It's maybe kind of like sad, I guess. But like, I've only ever had sleep paralysis once in my life that I can remember, and it was a day that I remember I was sick. I think in grade 4, and this was a few months after our grandfather passed away. So yeah, this is like a depressing stuff for our podcast. But what had happened was I stayed at home sick one day, like a few months later, and Mom had gone off to take Sam to school. Dad was at work, so I was at the house, like all by myself. And I think Mom had told me, "Oh, you can maybe get into our bed just for now, because that's just when you're a kid. Sometimes you just go over to your parents' bed when you're feeling scared or sick or something." So I remember doing that, but there was like a picture of my grandpa that was sort of like lying against the wall, and I had this like sort of experience where like all of a sudden my eyes were open. I couldn't look away from this picture and I couldn't move.
Interesting.
So at the time I definitely thought it's like, oh my god, is this a ghost thing? And I was terrified and I felt horrible and I didn't know why. But like later on in life I realized that was like that sleep paralysis that happens.
Right.
Where it's like you're sort of become transfixed on one thing and it seems like that thing is terrifying and you can't move.
Yeah.
But it was just this like weird experience.
It's your brain putting a spook filter over.
Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't anything supernatural. It was just, again, something that happens. But
Yeah.
And I've never had sleep paralysis before or since then. So
Interesting.
Yeah, crazy
Wow.
stuff.
Yeah,
I
there you
think
go.
it's about time. Unless y'all have one more thing to talk about, we can get to our wiki surf.
No, I think it'd be kind of redundant at this point. The other idea that I had.
No, now I want to hear.
I think it was something about like creating your own horror movie or something like
Oh
that.
yeah, sucks to suck.
No, it was like right. It was what's your? I think I was gonna ask like what's your favorite horror movie or something, but that's
Oh.
like a pretty short question. That's not much of a discussion, I guess.
I mean, I like Cabin in the Woods, and I liked Evil Dead 2.
I'm glad Sam and I watched that like maybe like a month or two ago.
Nice.
Stayed up and watched The Thing,
go.
Evil Dead 2, and Scream in one night.
Nice.
Yeah, that was an experience. Evil Dead 2 is just like good. I've seen it before, but like
Yeah, it's solid.
yeah, Evil Dead 2 is great.
I gotta
Still
go.
haven't seen Army of Darkness.
Neither have I. I gotta go with Midsummer.
Midsummer is excellent.
Just so much
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, no, it's a wonderful movie.
Yeah.
I think this is common knowledge at this point. The Lighthouse is my obvious answer.
Yeah.
Robert Eggers, what a wonderful movie maker that man is.
Yeah.
The Witch is is also very high on my personal list of
Yeah.
scary movies that I've seen.
The Witch?
Yeah.
The who, the what, the how, the where. Yeah, like I don't know. I kind of realized that wouldn't lead to much discussion other than I just like this movie, I guess.
I watched a bunch of. This is the thing that I do whenever I really like a movie or a TV show. Is I look for like interviews with the people involved or like
Yeah.
sometimes bloopers.
Yeah, right.
And it was interesting to kind of hear like how things went from Robert Pattinson's side of things
Right.
as well as from Willem Dafoe's side of things.
Right, yeah.
Because like Robert Eggers had like put he kind of he wanted to make something to put Willem Dafoe in.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Willem Dafoe, I remember him saying he came to me with this script and was like, "We're gonna put you alongside Robert Pattinson."
Yeah.
And I remember Pattinson talking about it and being like, "I really like being in stuff that's like kind of weird and out there, and I like that about Eggers."
Yeah.
So when he came to this script and he shows me the script, he's like, "Yeah, this is exactly what I would want."
Yeah. Well, like, you know, like, part of me is like, man, that's like, I would love to be in something one day that is like, you know, the same sort of vibe as The Lighthouse and being just
Yeah.
this bizarre, trippy experience that's, you know, sort of transcendent in the way The Lighthouse is. But
Yeah.
Now,
Who
I will
knows?
say this, though. The existence of Willem Dafoe implies the existence of a Willem Defriend.
that's true.
I do like that.
Willem Defriend. I feel like that's a meme just waiting to exist.
There you
Like, because you get those...
Just like Robert Pattinson,
Robert Patton father.
Robert Patton daughter.
There you
Robert
go.
Patton dad. That's just Robert Pattinson as is. Let's be honest.
Wait, and who is the director? Robert Egger?
Robert Eggers.
Does that mean there's a Robert Bacon's?
That's true.
Probably.
Robert Bacon and Eggers.
Well, I think it's
Robert Sausage and Egger.
I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure Robert wrote it. He wrote it with his brother.
He wrote it with his brother, and it was initially going to be a ghost story about a lighthouse.
Yeah.
But it ended up becoming its own sort of supernatural thing rather than like an out-and-out ghost story.
Yeah, which I feel like they would have done, like, I have a feeling that was a result of them kind of, like, during their whole research phase, which for the Eggers is a very large phase.
Yeah. So, Sam, you might appreciate this. I was listening to an episode of the podcast Lore.
Oh, yeah, I read all the books.
Yeah, and there was one episode of Lore where I was like, it starts talking about, like, spoilers for the lighthouse here. It starts talking about...
I know exactly what you're talking about.
this one story of these two lighthouse keepers, both of whom are named Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
Where, one went, they started to, like, hate each other on this island.
Yeah.
All where they were all alone, and but they went on for years, I think, as lighthouse keepers together. But they always hated each other. Like every time they came into town, they'd just constantly be together, but they'd be fighting, they'd be arguing and stuff until one of them died, and the other left the body where it was because it had gotten stuck in like some rigging or something. So it was just stuck there, and then the ship never came because to reclaim them, because the way the body was like sort of stuck, it was in this rigging, its arm was like hanging like it was waving, so every ship that came by thought that things were fine because the hand just waved back at them.
Oh, that's
yeah. And it's like with the two lighthouse keepers named Thomas that hate each other, part of me was like, bruh, like, Robert Eggers must have heard this because that's too much of a coincidence. Too much.
It's different enough
for it to be a coincidence.
It's different enough that if it was,
well, it's not a one-to-one, but I think it's an inspiration.
Yeah, you can definitely see, like, you know, that they did their research into, like, you know, actual like
spooky
horror stories that happen around lighthouses, because there's several different stories that one could say influenced this movie, and they probably all did.
Yeah.
Oh, so let's get to our wiki.
Yes, let's
wiki
do that.
Time.
It's the versus battle wiki.
It has nothing to do per se with Halloween.
Well,
at least as far as we know.
For now.
Well,
like it might end up.
So, for the benefit of our viewers at home, we got to explain power scaling.
Please do, Sam.
Power scaling is basically the idea that Jim can defeat Tim, and Tim defeated Blim.
Jim Halpert.
So thus, Jim could defeat Blim.
Right.
And if Jim could defeat Blim, we saw Blim run at 40 miles an hour. So if Jim could beat Blim, and Blim could run at 40 miles an hour, presumably Jim could run at 40 miles an hour.
Unless Jim had a strategy that did not require him to run at 40 miles an hour.
Now, you're not power scaling right here. You're thinking too much.
This isn't power scaling. This is using your brain.
Exactly.
As soon as I've started talking, I'm thinking too much.
Exactly. You know, and that's the thing about power scaling, is you have to throw all knowledge and context out the window and just go into... And so you get characters that are like... It goes into absolute absurdity.
So like if somebody beat like Ken from Street Fighter, it's like, so Ken can do a Hadouken, and this person beat Ken, so therefore this person could Hadouken better than Ken.
That's some faulty logic there.
That's exactly what this is kind of filled with, though.
Oh, wow.
Oh, boy.
So, and that's kind of the thing, is that it just casually lists characters as like, oh yeah, this character is, you know, fucking, you know, relativistic speeds, galaxy level destruction. Yeah, why not? Based on these insane chains of logic. And that's the beauty of the power scaling wiki. And for that, I'd like you to see how they power scale Homer Simpson.
So our first
Let's just
thing
do,
that we're gonna do
this isn't gonna be part of what we actually do.
But it's not a
Homer
one
Simpson.
Too random, but it is one I think where we can just shout out a character and see how they've been power scaled.
Homer power stats. Tier at least 8C.
That sounds pretty high.
10 being a normal human.
Okay.
And 1 being, you know, all powerful.
Homer J. Simpson. Superhuman physical characteristics. Toon Force. Immortality. types 2, 3, and 4 immortality, if you were wondering.
Yeah.
Regeneration.
Mid-tier regeneration.
Yeah.
Resurrection.
Okay. Acrobatics, astral projection, enhanced senses, can hear people from all across. Okay, so a lot of this is just based on the fact that he's in a cartoon.
Yeah.
And these are all one-off gags that are being attributed to him as like abilities that he has.
As he is.
He has weapon mastery in martial arts, subjective reality, knows pressure points,
I love this.
earth manipulation. He can scream loud enough to cause a massive earthquake. Social influencing, multiple personalities, elasticity.
I love this. Comparable to, albeit weaker than, Marge,
That's amazing.
who overpowered a hurricane that was strong enough to lift a bowling alley.
Wow. So he's got at least building level plus attack potency. So he can fight characters.
You imagine that just happens in an episode of The Simpsons where Homer just punches down a building.
Yeah. So his power attack potency is enough to take down a large building.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Wow.
So what are we gonna do with this?
Well, that's
Do
just...
we take?
2 characters and see who would win?
Yeah, well, and another one I did see was Hank Hill.
Oh yeah.
And they power scaled Hank Hill.
Wow.
And obviously, it's gonna be higher than we think it is.
Oh yeah, that's kind of the thing with this.
That's
But I would
the thing.
like you guys to throw out a character and see how they power scale.
Well, I just like to point out here, Homer Simpson's quote on the Versus Battles wiki here is just dough.
Yeah.
And like the way that it's sort of formatted on the page is that there's these massive quotation marks. The dough is really small and to one side, not in the middle, and that's just what it is. And
Yeah.
underneath it says Homer's catchphrase.
Yeah.
So-
Would you expect anything else?
Yeah.
No,
I
I just thought it was
I
beautiful.
think the thing to listen here with the power of Homer Simpson, the real takeaway here is, what is mind? No matter. What is matter? Never mind.
Wow.
Never mind.
That's real.
No,
for
that's
all you Simpsons.
Patrick. Oh man, I'm Marge. What does matter? Never mind. No, I can't do it.
Yeah,
Not today.
Merge.
We're going two random pages and decide who would win and why.
Okay.
So we got Yuki Yoshida
Wow. This is somebody I've never heard
from The Amazing World of Gumball.
of. Oh, cool.
Okay.
She is Masami's mother and Nicole Watterson's old friend / nemesis. The two, Nicole and Yuki studied martial arts together, entered tournaments. The two fought and Yuki lost.
Oof.
Oh no.
This angered her so much she left the United States and trained very hard,
Wow.
which in turn made her fearsome and arrogant.
Wow.
She wanted to get revenge on Nicole by whatever means necessary, even if it meant destroying Nicole's life to do so.
Relatable content.
Despite that, she cares for her daughter, Masami, very well. Okay, powers and stats. Tier 8C, so same as Homer.
Yeah, so she's at the same power level as Homer Simpson.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Classification, anthropomorphic cloud, and Nicole's rival.
Wow. Amazing.
Superhuman physical characteristics, skilled in hand-to-hand combat, energy manipulation, possible weather manipulation.
Wow. Attack potency, building level, so she could take
Okay.
down a building.
Okay.
At least
Homer Simpson
subsonic
was
speed.
large building level.
At least subsonic speed. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so her power level is 8C. So
Yeah. This strong, independent woman,
Who's a
from
cloud.
The Amazing World of Gumball, which
Yeah.
is a show I have not seen.
I've heard about it.
I've heard
I
many
don't-
good things about
yeah.
it, but
So yeah, Yuki versus the Ash Beast
the Ash Beast from
is an S. What is
characters
origin from parahumans?
Never heard of it.
Neither
I have no
I.
idea what that is, but it sounds dope.
It does sound dope. First appearing in Matru, Egypt.
Matru?
Matru?
I don't know.
I don't know.
It looks like it'd be.
The Ash Beast is an S-class threat that has
Oh,
been
no.
roaming Africa ever since. Though he's incredibly powerful and, in effect, a living explosion. Sparky Boom Man?
Oh!
His slow approach means that any location he arrives in has almost inevitably been evacuated already.
Dang. So his tier is 7A, so that's higher
Oh,
than
it is.
Yuki Yoshida of The Amazing World of Gumball.
Okay. Powers and abilities: energy manipulation, explosion manipulation, fire manipulation, matter manipulation, in the sense that he's effectively a living explosion created by mass to energy conversion.
Whack.
Absorption, shape-shifting, which means he can also grow wings for flight, and regeneration.
I think an explosion will defeat a cloud just by the nature of that matter.
But
Part of me had a thought.
But I would say that Yuki still stands a chance
because she can move at subsonic speed.
That's what. Yes.
Yeah. So she's got the speed advantage, and speed is often a deciding factor.
Yeah.
But even if she goes in and lands a hit, he's constantly exploding.
Well, if she's got like weather manipulation, she could make it
not certain.
rain on top of the.
She does have
explosion
energy
guy.
manipulation.
Yeah, so she could
to
make
a certain extent.
But I would say the sheer force of a constantly exploding being.
Like
You're
this
right.
guy's like it says that his power tier is only 7A, so like he's only about one full step power equivalent.
I think one full step is a lot.
Probably because his attack potency is large mountain level.
He
so.
does
Well,
have.
yeah, if he can blow up a mountain.
So I still think Ash Beast wins it because he does also have presumably limitless stamina. Yeah. So
Wait a minute, I want to see how do they power scale Sokka?
we gotta pick one thing to do with the wiki surf. All right, Emmett. Let's see
give me
what
2
you-
random pages. I got Jill Valentine from the Resident Evil 3 remake specifically.
Yeah. So the most recent Jill.
Yeah. Okay. One of the main
so-
protagonists. Tier 9B physically.
Oh, wow.
9B with small arms, 9A with heavy weapons and explosives. So a little lower than Homer Simpson.
That's sad.
This badass Resident Evil character. Powers and classifications, superhuman physical characteristics. Master marksman, expert hand-to-hand combat using melee weapons. Stealth mastery, healing with herbs and first aid spray, which exists.
Yeah.
Resistance to disease manipulation with green herbs. Same,
Gotta
bro.
love them green
Nothing
herbs.
like. And poison manipulation from the blue herb. You know it. Attack potency is wall level, so.
She can probably take
Kick
down a
down a
wall.
wall.
But building level with heavy weapons and explosives.
Yeah.
Superhuman.
I think anyone would be able to take down a building with explosives.
Sure. But speed is superhuman with supersonic combat speed and reactions. Can react and dodge missiles from a rocket launcher, so that's pretty whack.
That's pretty neat.
Peak human lifting strength. High
Okay.
stamina. So
So she's definitely a more ordinary human.
she's a more ordinary human, but like the top percentage
But
of
I think
ordinary
this
humans.
speed
Yeah.
is the only one that's,
That's like really whack, and this
Yeah.
bonkers herb use. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
so-
Listen, if this was a herb using contest, whew, no contest at all.
no contest.
It's gonna
at
be
all.
my next D&D
Yeah.
character, Bonkers Herbius.
Hello, my name is Bonkers Herbius. Hi.
All right, I'm a barbarian.
Versus a bombardier beetle. Wow.
Like an actual one?
Yeah,
Like in real life?
like a real life beetle. Origin, the real world. These bombardier beetles are best known for the unique defense mechanism. In order to defend themselves from predators, the bombardier beetles spray a hot caustic fluid at predators. I've heard about this beetle before.
Yeah.
Anybody watches Tier Zoo. It's an effective attack to make predators back off. They can swivel their rear end up to 270 degrees, allowing them to aim their defense mechanism nearly anywhere, including right in front of them.
What that thing do?
The power level, the tier is 10C, so that's one less than a human.
Yeah.
Bombardier beetle, origin, real world.
Small
So,
size.
do you think Jill can defeat this bombardier beetle?
I think it would be a real close battle. This person who's evidently the absolute peak of humanity and what humans can.
And who uses a vast array of herbs as well as heavy weaponry.
Yeah, to be able to defeat this. This
a beetle that shoots
the greatest
explosions
beetle
out of
the
its butt?
insect kingdom could muster up. I think the human would probably stand a fair chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Jill Valentine has this one. Now, Connor, I'm going to say I'm not going random with this one, because I have a battle that I truly want to know the answer of. Would Perry the Platypus from Phineas and Ferb beat Sokka from Avatar The Last Airbender?
Ooh. Okay, so let's look up Perry.
Perry the Platypus.
The platypus.
He's a semi-aquatic egg-laying mammal of action.
He is.
Indeed. One of the main characters. In case we're not familiar with Perry the Platypus.
And all the Phineas and Ferb talk
Yeah.
that has occurred on this
Yeah.
He
podcast.
is the pet platypus of the title characters of the show, Phineas and Ferb.
That makes sense.
An agent of the... I didn't know this is what the acronym meant.
It's
the
organization without a cool acronym.
I didn't know that. I love that. And the
Amazing.
arch nemesis, sometimes friendly rival of Dr. Heinz Doofenshmirtz.
Ah, Perry the Platypus. This versus battle page is impeccable. And by that I mean completely impeccable.
You went a little low there, but it's a good...
I tried my best.
That's
And
pretty
You
good.
started strong.
He's 10 years old.
Really?
Okay, that's canon, I guess.
I guess that seems old for a
For
platypus.
a platypus, that's
He's
probably-
like middle-aged.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so here's the thing. Is Perry the Platypus is also transgender.
Oh, cool.
And
Okay.
this is basically canon. Because in the episode in which Candace switched brains with Perry, Perry sweated milk. Which is, of course, something that only a female platypus would do. And also, Perry lacks the poisonous spurs on the hind legs that is...
You
know,
say that, but that is included on powers and abilities.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah,
It's a power.
To
Interesting.
lactate?
No, venomous spurs.
But Perry's never shown those venomous spurs.
Because that would be messed up to have that suddenly
Yeah, it's
happen
like all
in
of
the
a
show.
sudden Doofenshmirtz is just dealing with this entirely unhinged platypus.
Yeah.
So I want to believe you, but there's just not quite enough evidence to support the
Literally
claim.
sweating milk. That's how mother platypuses feed their young.
So maybe
Oh, that's cool.
maybe they just misnamed Perry, or maybe
Perry is short for Patricia.
No.
Yeah.
But I think everyone addresses Perry as male.
Right.
maybe they just don't know.
Yeah. Well, and they also describe him as a semi-aquatic egg-laying mammal in action.
Interesting.
Ooh.
But has Perry ever actually laid an egg?
That's also a good question. Aside from the gender of this platypus.
Yes. Okay, so superhuman physical characteristics, because cartoon, Toon Force. It says venomous spurs, but I don't know about that one.
Yeah, it's never been displayed in universe.
Mm-hmm. Hair manipulation, in the sense of he's been able to turn his fur into a key in order to pick locks with it.
This full-on Scooby-Doo solution.
Yeah. Flight with a jetpack or vehicles.
Yeah.
And an expert in martial arts and hand-to-hand combat, stealth mastery, magic projection, teleportation, and telepathy. I don't know where we're getting that from.
I'm sure it happened at some point.
Attack potency, city block level,
Oh.
capable of physically injuring Dr. Doofenshmirtz.
Okay, so that means
And this is one of the things.
This is
is that so-and-so survived a city block blowing up, and so-and-so punched them, so thus their punch has the force of to destroy a city block.
right.
Yeah.
So apparently Perry the Platypus could just one-punch an entire city block. He simply chooses not to.
Yes.
I don't much care for this.
This is amazing.
Durability city block level should be superior to Doofenshmirtz, who has multiple durability feats on this level. High stamina, range a few kilometers with his gadgets. Standard equipping various gadgets and vehicles from the OWCA, such as jetpacks, high-tech wristwatches, grappling guns, etc. Intelligence. Extremely high, possibly extraordinary genius. I'd believe it.
That's canon.
Seeing as he could replicate some of Phineas and Ferb's inventions and create a reverse of Doofenshmirtz's dull and boringinator.
Okay.
Nothing like a dull and boringinator.
Makes everything
Just dull and boring.
yeah.
Ah, Perry the Platypus. It's my dull and boring-inator.
Wow.
He is also able to escape from Doofenshmirtz's various traps and is overall an excellent strategist. He has extensive government training. We knew this. Weaknesses: will sacrifice himself if need be in order to keep his host family safe, otherwise none notable.
Wow.
Notable attacks and techniques: Way of the Platypus and Platyjitsu.
This is some quality martial arts.
The Way of the Platypus and Platyjitsu are curious superhuman martial arts that have also shown him to grant him abilities like magic. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Same.
I'm beginning to think Sokka's going to lose this match.
I'm starting to wonder.
Yeah.
That's like right up there with like Ron Stoppable and his
Yeah.
monkey martial arts.
Yeah, but his power tier is 8B, so let's see what Sokka's is.
Sokka. I gotta say, it's that's all I got. It's pretty much my whole identity. Sokka, the meat and sarcasm guy.
Iconic. That's
I do-
rough, buddy.
I'll be the veggies and straight talk guy from now on.
Yeah. Okay, so let's tier 9B physically, at least 9B with his sword.
That is lower than Perry the Platypus.
Names include Sokka, Wang Fire,
Iconic.
and Captain Boomerang.
Oh.
Okay.
His attack potency is but wall level.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he.
His he's got peak human speed and with massively hypersonic combat speed and reactions.
Oh, it's because of that anime power.
Yeah. So he
Well,
does have massively hypersonic speed.
When did he show hypersonic speed?
Well, it's I think scaling because he can keep up with masters at his prime. Mm-hmm. And evidently those masters have hypersonic speed and he can keep up with them.
This is the same power scaling that you're telling me about.
Yeah. His
Wow.
lifting strength is peak human. His striking strength is wall class. His durability is wall level.
Yeah.
Endured a large fall.
He
it
did.
says, so
They wrote a whole thing about his intelligence. This is very touching.
yeah.
He has gifted intelligence. Shows a remarkable proclivity towards science, adept at creating weapons from a variety of materials. This is true.
But I don't think he's the true genius that Perry the Platypus has shown.
No.
Yeah, I think he's just like underrated and underappreciated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta give this one to Perry the Platypus.
Gotta give it to Perry the Platypus. Perry the Platypus.
Yeah.
Player boy the plat boy.
Platty the Platyplat.
Yeah.
Plat. Anyway, that's an episode.
It sure is.
So thank you all for listening.
If you have anyone in the comments you'd like to power scale, do it yourself.
Yeah.
If you got any cool Halloween stories, rate us 5 stars and leave it in the review
Yeah, on Yelp.
on iTunes, Yelp, or whatever
Google
other
Play.
podcasting
Yeah,
platform you're listening to. Tell us what your Halloween costume was.
Yeah, it's time to
It's time to hit the hay!
It's time to hlit the hay.
It's been a slice.